Greetings and welcome to Wave Defense Comparison. This one's going out to all the Age of Darkness lovers out there, so that you can stop wondering and arguing about the effectiveness of the different options for defense. We may as well begin at the beginning with the nightmare fodder, the stalwart soldier. 66 of them, in fact. I don't know how many it's going to take, so we're just going to throw the whole kit and caboodle at it. So we are going to have 14 towers full of arbalists, which is going to continue throughout all of these tests. The units are fully upgraded for damage. They are the volatists, not the volatists, the rebels, and we are using a 5-tile wide choke point, which is probably the best you can expect to get. You might not even get that much from a lot of maps. So the goal here is to basically kill them as fast as they come in so that we avoid taking any losses. And we'll see how it goes. I'm a little concerned about the soldiers. They work well for waves 1 and 2, but this is wave 5 on Nightmare difficulty. Yeah, it's not going great. They're kind of coming back to their fodder roots. So yeah, we could go ahead and add in a triage tent here to kind of stem the losses, but it's not going to help us hold this position. The soldiers are just not up to this task because they have no splash damage. As good as they are for map clearing and for waves 1 and 2, they're just not capable of dealing with this density and rate of enemies. We did try a different tactic of giving them some more space here. Yeah, still not cutting it. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to something a little beefier than the soldier. Well, next on the chopping block is pikemen. They are the next melee unit that we start with, so let's see how they do. They have piercing damage, so we should be able to expect a little better from them. And they're kind of holding their own. It's actually looking pretty close to a stable situation, but they are taking damage. Got a guy out in front there that is looking worse for wear. We're going to try and pull him back. We'll do our best to keep them alive, just kind of cycle them back and forth. But yeah, as it goes along here, we're losing ground, we're losing people. This is not a stable situation. And there's not really anything I can think of to do other than maybe put them behind a wall, but they can't stab through the wall, unfortunately. That's one of the suggestions I've made to the devs, but not that way for now. So I'm afraid the pikemen are not viable. Next up is the Sentinel. He is our last melee unit. And so far, all the bodies hitting the floor are of the Nightmare variety. This is largely due to the attack of the Sentinels having a slight cleave on it and pierce on it, as well as a stun, which, combined with a fairly high attack speed, gives them an uncanny ability to just not take any damage when standing in front of a horde of enemies, a feature which I quite appreciate. And I think that's all I need to see. Through the most intense part of the wave, the Sentinels have maintained their health. They have maintained a never-ending wave of death right in front of them, which is actually quite comical to watch, killing the Munchkins as fast as they can run in. This is a sustainable situation. I believe we have our first victors, but at what cost? So we have 25 Sentinels at 350 gold each, plus we added an extra tower of arbalists in addition to the regular 14. That comes to a grand total of 11,000 gold, and that will be the number to beat. Fresh off of disproving the myth that units are useless, let's move on to more standard fare, the Ballista tower, the tier 2 in this case, since it's wave 5 and tier 1 ballistas are not going to cut it. This is what most new players assume is the intended way to defend a wave, so let's see how it stacks up. So we started off with 9, but it looks like we could get by with less, so we'll take that out, because we are trying to find the minimum number that we can get to a reasonably survivable state here. In this case, we're willing to lose the row of walls if necessary, but we don't want to lose any towers. So they are working through the walls here, grinding their teeth on them, but at a slow enough rate that it looks like we will get through the wave before, or right around the time that they take those walls down. So I would say that 7 Grand Ballistas is enough, and that brings us to a total of 15,000 gold when you combine the cost of the walls. Shocking though it may be for some, a significantly worse performance than the Sentinels. Of course, we can't leave out the trusty fire tower. It has fallen out of favor after it was slapped around a bit with the nerf bat, but we'll give it a try and give a fair test here. Now, we're seeing here that unfortunately, even though we lined up 4 towers, we need all of them to hit more or less simultaneously in order to kill a swath of the enemy. And unfortunately, the one on the bottom right there is off cycle with the others because the initial enemies came in at the top, and so it didn't trigger at the same time. And that is really ruining the entire effect. And if it's not working here, it's probably not going to work a lot of the time. So not a reliable tower, in my opinion. When they don't immediately kill the enemy, the ballistas end up shooting them, and they just, as you can see, it's not any better per cost than just pure ballista. Alright, well, we've seen melee, we've seen static, it's time for a little siege up in here. So we will start with the Impaler, and we've got quite a lot of them out here. I know it looks haphazard to just kind of throw them out front like this. We could put them behind a wall. I was thinking about ways to, ideally you want to get the enemies lined up. The only way to really do that, other than with terrain, which you can't count on having, is with walls, and then the walls get destroyed. So we're just going to see how they do on their own out here first. And they're pretty close to stable. They are taking quite a bit of damage, so I have to keep pulling some of them back, and it's not working perfectly. Unfortunately, I didn't have any more Impalers to bring out because I thought 12 would be overkill, and it was not. But I think a few more Impalers or just a wall could hold this down just fine, so I added the cost of the wall, and it's not great, 19,000. But enough of that, let's move on to the favorite child, the unit that we all know we want to win, the catapult, because the visceral satisfaction of seeing a boulder just demolish an entire swath of enemies is just undeniable. So we have 4 of them set up here, and we have staggered them. We set them up at different times so that they will fire not all together, which is the usual problem with catapults. And it's working pretty darn well. So well, in fact, that we took one of them away, so we're down to 3 now. And that may have been a little much, because now they're getting to the towers. We could, of course, put a wall there, but probably 4 catapults to be safe, I would say. So, yeah, it works. 8,000 gold, and that is the lowest so far, behind Sentinels. Happy trails, Boomer. No refunds. Go Team Catapult. And finally, we have what most players probably know to be a ringer in the fight, the Flamer. It is half the cost of other siege engines. It has knockback, it has stun, it has spectacle, it has massive AoE splash damage, and we have 4 of them set up here in front of our towers, just taking all comers, having no problem handling this wave 5 at the peak of its power. Give it up for the Flamers because they have done it. First they won the internet, now the Flamers have won this game. 4,000 gold, that's all it takes to hold this wave off. That is by far the cheapest, half of the catapult's cost. Give it up for the champ, maybe next year catapults. But where would be the fun in ending it there? Because there is one thing that we haven't tried. Sticking a holy crap ton of archers in towers and hoping for the best. Is it stupid? Yes, but if you're not living stupid, you're not living life. So, I mean, we're here to test. Let's stick them in and find out what happens. So excuse me for about 5 minutes while I load a bajillion towers. All right, in they go. One at a time, please. No pushing or shoving. So, as you can see, we've got way more than 14 towers now. But, surprisingly, it's kind of working so far. We're just at the beginning of the wave, of course. It's going to get worse. So, let's see how much worse it gets. So they are chewing on the walls now. But at less of a rate than I expected. The wall is holding pretty well. And I think the fire arrows are doing the bulk of the lifting here. They actually have an AoE on hit that can hit anywhere from 1 to 10 units around it. It's very inconsistent. But yeah, we only lost the wall and none of the towers. But holy damn, $27,000 cost. Gold cost, rather. So yeah. Not recommended, but it is possible. And who would I be if I didn't give the Arbalists their shot? You know, we let the archers have a go at it. We gotta let the it's a rivalry thing. They've got something to prove. So here you go, Arbalists. Your time to shine. Show them who's the better unit. You cost way more. I'm sure you'll get the job done in half the time. You're almost 3 times the cost, so... Actually, you're more than 3 times the cost. 175 to 600? Like, yeah, you... Guys, it kind of looks like they're munching on the walls faster. We got problems. Like, they're through the wall. Those are towers that they're taking down right now. How are the Arbalists doing worse than the archers? Again, 3 times the cost. I think we're seeing that clearly Arbalists were not meant to deal with crawlers. They did get that debuff in the last update that made them only do half damage to crawlers. They still one-shot them though, so it doesn't really matter since we have the damage upgrades. But their attack speed is still 5.3 seconds, where an archer's is 2.5, so when they're both one-shotting, the Arbalists are just half the DPS, basically. For 3 times the cost, so it really shouldn't be all that surprising. Arbalists are made for killing bigger units. They're good at that, they're worth it for that, but not for this. Don't do Arbalists, kids. Stay home, stay safe. This costs 70,000 gold. 70,000 gold for a worse performance than the archers, which were already way expensive. Oh my god. Yeah, the flamers take it. Catapults, if you can't do flamers, if you need the joy of the catapult in your life, and sentinels are also good. Everything else, it's crap. Don't do it. Just say no. Goodbye.